And the response to the coronavirus down south, Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa has banned his country's civil servants from foreign trips and requested citizens to restrict travel to minimize the risk of spreading COVID-19. The country's health minister says the first case in the SADC region in South Africa is cause for concern. To talk about this more is SABC foreign editor Sophie Mokoena. So just how much of a panic is there within the SADC region?
Well, you know, South Africa is one of the largest countries on the continent, but also in the SADC region, you know, second to Nigeria. And therefore, the region is quite panicking because now you have South Africa with its sophisticated health services, but also in terms of testing, having this problem. And it is for that reason today the Minister of Health in Zimbabwe indicated that last week they received information that they are likely to have a case. And when they investigated and did the test, they found out that it's not necessarily true. But today, receiving this news in the SADC region, it is indeed time for the region to work together and to ensure that we don't have this problem in other countries, particularly when you look at countries that are vulnerable like Malawi, the poorest country on the continent. You will have challenges there, with healthcare being one of the main challenges in that country, small countries like Lesotho, Swaziland. And let's take a listen at what the Minister of Health in Zimbabwe had to say about this case in South Africa.
With South Africa having this case, they were saying, before they were saying, if COVID-19 comes to South Africa, and then recently they were saying when COVID-19 comes to South Africa. You know, likewise, we also have to think the same. We have to think exactly the same way and be able to be prepared when COVID-19 comes to Zimbabwe. So we have to be fully prepared, you know, and be ready for it. Yes, it is very frightening now that it's around the corner, and but I'm sure that, you know, the South African authorities are going to be very thorough and be able to isolate and have pick up the contacts, you know, which that COVID-19 positive, you know, carrier had met with, you know. So it's a process. So while you are looking miserable, I want to say, yes, we have to be prepared, all of us. And what we are doing here today, by coming here, it's one of the signs of being prepared.
All right, so Sophie, as the minister says, just on our back door, really underscoring the importance of being very careful with our management of our porous borders. Yes,
indeed, that's what needs to happen. I think the Department of Health, the Department of Home Affairs must be vigilant now. Yesterday, during African Perspective, when Aldrin was speaking to the Acting Director General of Health, Dr. Pillay, he indicated that at some point in time, this week in Beitbridge at the border post, there was an incident where at some particular time there were no health officials because the three who were deployed there got ill, and therefore it took time for them to redeploy. And when Aldrin asked him whether is this not perhaps a risk if you have a situation where at the border you don't have health officials there, he said, yes, indeed, it is a risk. And now they are communicating with the Department of Home Affairs to track down people who entered at Beitbridge border at that time to try and follow those citizens, either ordinary citizens or foreign nationals who came via Beitbridge, to ensure that whoever came in at that time when there were no health officials, they can be able to see to it that they do tests to those people and also get history background so that we don't have a situation where we have this problem because there was no one at Beitbridge who could have the skills to deal with that issue. And the second issue is that the health ministers of SADC will be meeting in Tanzania next week to look at health matters on the continent as part of the SADC region in preparation for the SADC summit in August. But I think this issue of the coronavirus is going to be high on the agenda of ministers of health from the SADC region in Tanzania next week. Today, ministers of labor are meeting in Tanzania looking at the economy of the region, but also issues of unemployment. But I think this matter also will be discussed.
And Sharon mentioning earlier on the impact on the economies of various countries. China has already suffered a huge blow. SADC is obviously very concerned itself about possible impact of this.
Yes, when we spoke to the Deputy Minister of Finance 2 days ago, you also spoke to him, Dr. David Masondo. He indicated that unfortunately, they didn't factor in the issue of the coronavirus when they were talking about the growth, the economic growth in the country. And therefore, they now have to revise that growth projections. And indeed, we are going to see a situation where we have more challenges. It was only 2 days ago where we got numbers that we are now in recession. And you can imagine, and China being our largest trading partner in terms of exports and imports, indeed, we are going to suffer because there are goods and services that we can't send to China or commodities. We can't either receive certain goods into the country. You know, small businesses, most of them, they import goods from China to sell, and therefore we will be affected. Kenya already, people they're saying that they are running out of stock, and therefore we are going to have this problem. China is one of our largest trading partner in the world, and therefore we are definitely going to have a problem.
Thank you very much. Sophie Mokoena, SABC, a foreign editor.